I should have known the moment they tore down my fence that everything was about to go straight to hell. 3 days later, wild boars were ripping through the neighborhood like a stampede from a nightmare, and somehow the HOA still had the audacity to blame me, the one guy who'd spent 16 years keeping those animals out. And if that sounds insane, buckle up, because this story isn't about wildlife. It's about the predators wearing polos and clipboards. My name's Elijah Brody. I'm 62, retired U.S. Forest Service officer, and whether I admit it or not, a stubborn old man who still wakes up at 5 every morning because muscle memory doesn't retire. I live alone on a sloped acre where suburbia smacks right into the Pine Hollow State Forest. Sarah, my wife, built that home with me before cancer took her in '07. And maybe this sounds sentimental, but that land is the last place where her voice still echoes. The porch railing she stained, the cedar posts she helped me carry. You lose someone like that, and suddenly land isn't land anymore. It's the last piece of them you can still touch. That fence. God, that fence wasn't some cute country decoration. It was a barrier between civilization and animals that don't give you a warning before they charge. Feral hogs, tusks like daggers, 100 to 300 pounds of muscle teeth and attitude. You hit one with a car, the car loses. You get in their path, you lose faster. 16 years that fence held. Never cracked, never failed. The neighbors even thanked me for it. But the universe loves to tempt fate, and fate arrived wearing matching khakis, polo shirts, and HOA badges. Pine Hollow Beautification Board, an ironic name for a group that couldn't beautify their morals if their lives depended on it. When the developer expanded the subdivision, the HOA decided my land. My old grandfathered land was suddenly under their jurisdiction. No vote, no consent. Just a letter in the mail telling me my mailbox was wrong, my shed was aesthetic pollution, and the fence, my life-saving fence, violated design standards. I called, left messages, explained the wildlife situation, cited state codes. Nothing. Silence. And not the peaceful kind, the smug kind. Then came the final warning: remove the fence in 30 days or pay $500. $500 for protecting people who'd never stepped foot in the woods past their backyard. I sent back a letter thicker than their entire rule book, loaded with evidence photos of boars, migration patterns, everything short of a hand-drawn map labeled Death Zone. Didn't matter. They didn't want facts, they wanted obedience. And one summer morning I woke to the screech of metal-on-metal heavy machinery snarling like some mechanical beast. I threw on boots still in my pajama pants and ran downhill to find 3 contractors yanking my fence out of the earth like weeds. "You're trespassing," I shouted. They didn't even flinch. One pointed to a sheet of paper. "Work order. HOA president says proceed." No court order, no sheriff, just Janice Mallory and her clipboard kingdom. By noon the eastern barrier was gone, and I swear those boars were watching from the tree line, waiting. 3 days later the first neighborhood post popped up online. Something tore up my flower bed and knocked over my trash bins. Then another. Is this a pig? It was in my backyard. Scratch marks, rooted lawns, damaged cars, screaming dogs, terrified residents. And instead of apologizing for unleashing chaos, the HOA marched up to my porch with a letter claiming I had a responsibility to prevent wildlife hazards. "You cannot make this stuff up." I tried to stay calm, tell myself this would blow over, but the damage kept coming. And then for the first time in a long time I sat on my porch and wondered, maybe I was the problem. Maybe living on the edge of the forest made me blind to how suburban people felt. Maybe my fence really was an eyesore. Maybe I'd been so busy protecting the land that I forgot how to deal with people. For a moment, a real vulnerable moment, I wanted to sell everything and disappear somewhere quiet. Somewhere without HOAs or clipboards or neighbors who turned me into the villain in their Facebook group. I felt old, tired, alone. Then 2 voices pulled me back. First was Karen, Wildlife Services. Karen, not HOA Karen. She sent a short message. "They're poking the wrong bear, Eli. Tell me what you need." Then Carlos, a retired city attorney who lived uphill, texted, "Saw what happened. I can help if you want to fight back. Fight back. The words felt like cold water hitting hot coals. The next week, we built a case big enough to flatten the HOA twice over. Photos, reports, emails, camera footage of the demolition. And then a golden nugget, a buried clause in the HOA bylaws stating they needed a neighborhood vote to expand jurisdiction onto my property. There was no vote. They'd acted illegally from day one. Then Janice made the worst move of her life. She called an emergency HOA meeting and displayed photos of boar damage to blame me publicly. This crisis began with one man's refusal to follow community standards she declared like a preacher delivering bad gospel. I didn't yell, didn't wave papers. I simply set a folder on the podium and opened it. This, I said, tapping a photo of a sounder of boars at the tree line, was taken 3 days before your crew tore down my fence. Gasps. Then another photo. The next day. In the Pattersons' yard, where their toddler plays. Silence. Thick. Heavy. I warned you, I said, twice. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." I left that meeting with something I hadn't felt in months: momentum. HOAs hate momentum unless they control it. So what did Janice do? She rolled up to my property with a bulldozer. Again. Claimed she was performing vegetation fire mitigation. On my land. Against a judge's temporary injunction. I walked down the driveway filming everything. "You are violating a judicial order," I told her. Her smile twitched. "Elijah, don't be dramatic," she said. Before I could reply, an unmarked truck pulled up. Deputy Nolan stepped out, tall, broad-shouldered, and absolutely done with everyone's nonsense. "Miss Mallory," he said, "you and your equipment need to leave this property now." Janice sputtered like a lawnmower with bad gas, then stomped off as the contractors backed away like she'd suddenly become radioactive. That video hit the neighborhood forum by evening. By morning, people were ready to riot, not against me, but against her. Then the Boars returned. It was past midnight when I drove into the neighborhood and saw blue police lights bouncing off torn lawns and broken fences. People in bathrobes crying. A man holding a shattered rake. Someone's trampoline shredded like confetti. Tracks everywhere. Mud-blood panic. And as residents gathered in the gym for an emergency town hall, every eye turned toward Janice, not me. A young mother stood up shaking. "My 5-year-old found blood on his swing set this morning," she said. "You told us everything was under control." Then Mr. Ellis retired. Firefighter pointed straight at her. "I warned you this fence was the only thing holding them back." By the time someone yelled, "When's the recall vote?" Janice looked like a balloon losing air. Saturday's vote felt like walking into a courtroom disguised as a clubhouse. People lined up outside holding ballots like weapons. I stood in the back watching neighbors whisper glare shake their heads. I didn't need to campaign. The truth had been campaigning for me all week. When the counting finished, Sandra, one of the residents, raised the microphone with trembling hands. "We needed 60% for a recall," she said. "The final vote, 73% in favor." The room erupted. Janice stood frozen, sunglasses hiding nothing. Hands trembling, jaw clenched. Everything she built, every ego-driven rule crumbled in real time. But justice wasn't finished with her. 2 weeks later, we stood in a packed courthouse. Cameras, reporters, residents who once feared speaking up now filling every seat. Carlos presented our evidence. Body cam footage, drone photos, emails where Janice wrote, "If we don't act fast, we'll lose the east boundary to him." She wasn't protecting the neighborhood, she was trying to seize land. Her lawyer tried to spin it, but the judge shut him down so fast I almost felt sorry for the guy. When the judge finally turned to Janice, the whole room held its breath. "Miss Mallory," she said, "this was not ignorance. It was arrogance. And the consequences of your decisions endangered an entire community." Then the gavel came down. Judgment in my favor. Full restitution. Legal fees. And the big one, the case referred for potential criminal charges. Janice's face drained of color, and in that moment I knew the story was over. Not because I won, but because she finally couldn't pretend anymore. And that's where it ends. No celebration. No victory parade. Just a simple truth settling in the air like dust after a long fight. Some fences protect land. Others protect people. And sometimes the hardest fence to rebuild is the one between right and wrong. Stand your ground, even when they tear it down first.